Show your move. Good news, everyone. Don't you when you see onions have
Welcome to 20th Century Boy. My name is Radio Mike, and this is the inside of Radio Mike's mind. Obviously that makes sense because I am Radio Mike and I do the podcast, and therefore the inside of my mind would be also the inside of Radio Mike's mind, and I don't believe I needed to explain that in so much detail, but hey, I did it anyway. G'day guys, how you been? It's me, Radio Mike, the guy whose mind this is the inside of. No, but seriously, how are you? I'm going pretty well. And I do acknowledge, as always, that every time I say hello and how are you on this podcast, you're not actually able to respond to that. But we're coming to the pointy end of the year, guys. Nearly at the end of 2019. Recording this on the 27th of November. It's out on the 28th. And if my calculations are correct, there would only be about 33-ish more days of 2019. And what a big year it's been. And I'll reflect more on the year in a future episode. But I did want to say that obviously this podcast has been a massive part of my year. And I've been doing it since, I think the first ep came out in like the last week of January. So it's crazy. And who knew all the fun that we'd have? You know, we'd get to meet my editor Mike, and he'd get divorced, remarried, cheated on by Ziggy Mike, started dating another woman who's also a robot voice assistant, engaged and married by the end of the year. Intern Mike, who would do so many crazy things this year, including singing us a song in episode 14, possibly 13. I can't remember. It was so long ago. You know, doing a maths assignment in which he had to find out the diameter of a woman's breasts on Pornhub.com. That was verified by the principal of his school, Principal Fuckhead. None of this stuff was ever planned to be part of the podcast, honestly. So I'm really happy with how it's come. Obviously, Siggy Mike and Reporter Mike there as well. And I did want to say a massive thanks to everyone for listening, and also one for Radio Yabini Boy, who's a long-time listener of the podcast, and he was there from probably, I think he was he was definitely there in episode 6, which is obviously, you know, nearly 40 weeks ago. And he sent me a really nice message this week. So have 50 mic points, Beanie Boy. And he said, bro, it's so wild to think back to how the podcast started and how it's really helped me this year. Hearing more serious stuff such as mental health and your weight story really helped out. It's good to know you're not alone, and in a weird way, the podcast has made me more self-confident and just made me smile every week. Thanks for all the hard work you put in for all the radio family. Which is super awesome. And when I started this podcast, I think the idea of it was just for me to have a place where I could speak openly about things that I liked and things that I was feeling and experiences I was having. And it's been really awesome for that. And like getting a message like that from your Beanie Boy, which I assume is a fake name, by the way. I assume he wasn't born. I think he's from New Zealand. I assume that's not like a New Zealander name, like a popular name. I assume when he was born, his parents gave him a proper name like Davo or Damo. Well, probably not Damo. And then he decided later in his life that he would call himself your Beanie Boy. But who knows? And like, it means a lot to get messages like that. So thanks so much to anyone who's been like, I don't know, motivated or touched. I just don't want to use the word touch, but anyone who's been affected personally by this podcast, that's awesome, because I've had such a blast doing it. You can still get merch, by the way, radiomike.com.au. Go pick up some merch. And there is also, go pick up some merch there. There's t-shirts, stickers, posters. Thanks to everyone who's bought one so far. It's just basically to put money back into the podcast because it costs like $15 a month to run the podcast. So pretty much if you buy something, you pay to put the podcast on air for a month. But it'd be cool to just, even if I can just make enough money to keep the lights on and to keep the podcast online, that'd be great. There's signed posters, custom signed posters by all the mics, radiomike.com.au to get that. You can also, at the moment, go to releasethesounds.com for my band stuff, and it's the band support's still going. Someone messaged me the other day, I can't remember who, but they were like, hey, I've been listening to the album every day. Awesome, because it's like, obviously now that now that the album's been out for some time. Oh, here it is. Jacob C. Hill 16. Welcome to the radio family. Have 10 mic points for this. He said, I've listened to the album about 500 times. Only question is, when is the next one? And that's awesome. So update on that. We're really keen on doing more stuff with the album, with the band, sorry. And Jack's heading over to Mexico in over the Christmas period. So there's probably nothing coming from Release the Sounds in any sense for the rest of 2019. But 2020, we really want to pick up and do some more songs, and we really want to get a live gig together. It's just a matter of how we do a live gig, because we can either do an acoustic gig, which I think would be cool, and there's on the Spotify version of the album, there's a acoustic track we did on the Daily Talk Show, which is another great podcast, and check it out. They're doing awesome stuff, which is cool. We could do that style, but then we want to do something like with a full band, but then we've never played the songs as a full band, and we'd need to get a drummer, we'd need to get a bassist, we'd need to get people to play the instruments, and also we'd need to rehearse that, and that all costs money. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to do it. And I guess if you buy something, it helps us put that money back into the band as well. I always feel weird trying to get people to buy stuff, and you totally don't have to, because we always wanted the album to be free, which it is. But I guess just having a little pool of money that we can work with helps us do better stuff and pay people to be in our band. But we really want to do something with the band. So releasethesounds.com for merch there. You can use, at the moment, there's a promo code that is Michael Hurley, as in the football player for the Essendon Bombers. Michael Hurley. Just type that in, you get 20% off anything in the store. And that's because Michael Hurley, the Essendon player, DM'd Jack on Insta and said that for the Essendon Christmas lunch or something, they all have to wear their favourite band t-shirt or their favourite band merchandise. And he asked Jack if he could wear a Release the Sounds shirt. So we sent one out to him, and now there's a discount code. So go and use the discount code. Buy something. Christmas cutoff dates are December 8th for any of the apparel. So yeah, if you want to get someone a Christmas present of Release the Sounds or a Radio Mike shirt, December 8th is the cutoff. This podcast is going to be maybe less production heavy, only because, and I'm so sorry, but yeah, I always say this, just working full time, I haven't had time. I was supposed to have today off, which is Wednesday. So I was like, oh, cool, I'll work Monday, Tuesday, and then I'll have Wednesday off, and I'll spend the whole day doing the podcast. But then something went wrong, and I had to come into work, which I thought was a good idea, so I could make money for the day again, because money, everything just comes back to money in this world. So I'm now doing it at 6:30 p.m. on the Wednesday, and I hope that's okay. But I've had a super crazy week. One of the most fun weeks ever. I went on Saturday, we had our Christmas party for the Hamish and Andy podcast team, which is a team of 9 people who are all awesome and just great to work with. And we went fishing. They took us fishing on a boat, and it's all because one member of the team, Eliza, who is the last person you'd ever expect to be someone who's into fishing, she just randomly came out one day and said, oh, by the way, guys, I love fishing, and we should go fishing for the Christmas party. And everyone thought she was joking, but we started quizzing her. She's like, what kind of bait do you use? And she's like, oh, I use this. And she knew everything. We were like, oh, so she legitimately loves fishing. And then Hamish and Andy took us all out on a fishing boat to go fishing. And it was one of the best memories of my life, to be honest. It was just a really fun day. I got really sunburnt, but it was just so worth it. I don't know. It was just a great team experience, and I had a blast. So that was really, really fun. And I caught 5 flatheads. I haven't been fishing since I was 6 years old, when my dad took me, and I was like, Dad, I hate fishing, this sucks. But I had a really good time. It reminded me of fishing in video games. I remember in it was a lot like fishing in a video game. Props to video games for making the in-game fishing so realistic. But yeah, had a great time. But on to the main story of the week, because sorry guys, but I just don't really have time for any of you anymore. Sorry, Editor Mike, I don't have time for you anymore. Well, what do you mean, Mike? Or what do you mean you don't have time for me? I don't understand. Well, mate, I'm officially an influencer. Influencer Mike. You made an... you made an... Trying to... Sorry, guys, I'm trying to remember what end of the mic sounds like. Sorry, man, I just totally forgot what you sounded like for a sec there. Anyway, I am an influencer because this week, San Remo Pasta sent me a care package to my work, which was awesome. Now, I'll be totally honest that this is a lot less cool than it sounds because I think the person, whoever works for San Remo, I think they're just a massive Hamish and Andy fan because they've included they've put heaps of pasta in there and like ingredients that I can cook their pasta with, and they've included a personalized message that contains several references to things that I've done on the Hamish and Andy podcast this year. So it's like, "Dear Radio Mike, we hope this gift finds you well. We're super excited to announce that our latest innovation, Ready Pasta, has won Product of the Year in the Pasta and Rice category for 2020. Congratulations, San Remo Pasta. Over 10,000 Australians voted, and we're so proud to have come up on top." Now I realize I'm pretty much just giving San Remo a free ad, but they sent me pasta, so whatever. But then they go, "We thought you might enjoy our new product as we know boiling water isn't a strong skill of yours. There's no need to work out if your pans are induction cooktop suitable or not, or to spend precious time boiling water, time away from playing Super Smash Bros. Just chuck the whole packet in the microwave for 90 seconds and bam, you've got perfectly cooked pasta. Or even eat it cold if you want. It's already cooked," which is pretty cool. But I just love, so obviously boiling water is not a strong skill of mine because on the Hamish and Andy podcast, there was that incident in which I had to boil eggs and it took half an hour. Obviously very funny. Haha, let's all laugh at Mike. And then time away from playing Super Smash Bros. Induction cooktop suitable pans because that was the solution during the egg thing. That's so cool. And I thought it just made my day completely. So go and buy San Remo pasta, whatever. Go ahead and do it. And take a photo of you with your San Remo pasta and send it to me, because I can say totally non-biased that San Remo make the best pasta in the world. I repeat, there is no better pasta than San Remo's Ready Pasta, which is Product of the Year in the Pasta and Rice category. Think of all the rices and pastas you've ever had. I can think of a lot, but this one won Product of the Year. So, go and buy it. #influencer, #not sponsored because is this a sponsored post? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But that's probably the highlight of my week so far. The other thing I wanted to do today, and it's become a recurring thing in my life that I don't know if you guys know this, but on iPhone, if you've got an iPhone and you use Messenger, right, you can scroll at the bottom of your Messenger above the keyboard, and there's all these things. So there's like photo, Apple Store, stickers, Animoji, music, digital touch, and then there's one called Game Pigeon. And in Game Pigeon, there's all these games that you can play via Messenger with your friends. So I play this one called Sea Battle, which is basically discount royalty-free Battleship. And it is the most fun I have ever had. And I feel like this week I have concurrently been playing like 8 different matches of Sea Battle. Now, I tried to get... I was basically just... It became such a dopamine hit. So as you know how battleships work, you go like, oh, B3, and you hit B3. And if that's where one of their ships is, you get a hit. And I was just like playing at first with Keelan from... the Luke and Lewis show. So we were just playing, and then I was like, all right, then Keelan was taking too long to do his turn. So I was like, oh, I need to keep playing. So then I started playing one with Cass, who's my artist for this podcast, who does actually all the art on the merch as well. And massive shout out to Cass, who's an incredible artist. And then, so I was playing with Cass, and then working on the Carrie and Tommy show, there's a guy I work with called Marshy, who also works with Hamish and Andy, and I was just sitting next to him, and Cass and Keelan both hadn't had their turn yet. So I was like, hey, Marshy, do you play battleships on Game Pigeon? So then I started the match with Marshy, and then like literally pretty much everyone in my contact list, I started inviting them to play sea battles with me. And then halfway through the week, I had 8 different matches of sea battles going that I just got sick of it and couldn't keep playing. But now I was on my way home from work tonight and I'm like, oh, I need to catch up on all my Sea Battle matches. My number one recommendation to all of you is have 3 or 4 active Sea Battle matches during your day. Just text someone you haven't texted for a while and just invite them to play Sea Battles, right? You don't even have to talk to have a connection with them. You just play Sea Battles with them and it's the fucking best. I highly recommend it. Send me screenshots of you playing Sea Battles with your friends. Find someone in the radio family. Find a radio partner. Ask them for their number. Play a few matches of Sea Battles with them. Let me know the result. Did you win? Did you lose? It doesn't matter as long as you had fun with your radio partner playing Sea Battles. Now, obviously, intern Mike and Ed of the Mic are here, and it has been a tumultuous few weeks for us after Ed of the Mic had his Bucks party, which ended in chaos and a near death for a man from the footy club called Damo when Siggy Mike did an earth-shattering shit. Now, poor Damo was severely injured by the blast, wasn't he, Ed of the Mic? Yeah, Mike, look, things were not looking good for Damo. And Radio Heath, and welcome to the radio family, Radio Heath. Sorry, Ed of the Mic, you're not allowed to do that. Only I'm allowed to do that. Oh, sorry, Mike. Well, did you want to do it? Yeah, welcome to the radio family, Radio Heath. Take 10 mic points for your trouble. Yeah, and Radio Heath came on the show last week to start the hashtag I care for Damo hashtag. And, we're trying to raise awareness for Damo because obviously it's a lose-lose situation if Damo dies. It's a lose for Damo because, obviously if Damo dies, then he's dead. So that's an obvious lose. Yeah, I mean, that's an obvious lose. Yeah, probably didn't have to explain that. And it's a lose for us because if Damo does die, then Siggy Mike will be charged with murder and will not actually be able to... he won't be able to come to my wedding because he'll be in prison for life. And he's my best man, so I'd love to see him at the wedding. Yeah, and there was a lot of debate as to why Damo... sorry, guys, I just realized whenever on this podcast, when I'm talking to Ed of the Mic, I, look intently into the corner of the room as if that's where Ed of the Mic is sitting. I look intently and, and when intern Mike talks, I look at the other corner. Anyway, it's weird. It's like they're really there. Oh, what do you mean, Mike? We are really there. Yeah, Mike, we are really here. Hey, guys, this is me talking for the first time in this podcast from the left of the room, and here's me from the right. Yep, that's us. Okay, anyway, go on, Ed of the Mic. Wait, I can't even remember who was talking and what we were talking about. Yeah, so... I think you were actually saying something, Mike. Yeah, I've got my train of thought. So I was just going to say there was a bit of contention about why Siggy Mike was your best man at the wedding. That surprised us all because Siggy Mike is actually the reason you and your wife Marianne got a divorce because she cheated on you with Siggy Mike and they ran off together to Bali. Yeah, but when I think about the quality of Siggy Mike's friendship, it just really stands out amongst all the bad things he's done. And not everyone's perfect, Mike, as you know. We all have our flaws. Yeah, but I mean, come on, man. I've employed you on my podcast. You've gotten a profile for this. Well, Mike, look, I've made my decision. I don't really want to have to fight about it in such a public forum. This is just what's happening. All right, intern Mike, do we have any updates on the I Stand With Damo campaign? Because we just want to get it trending pretty much. Yeah, Radio Superstar Pat, welcome to the Radian family. Okay, first of all, it's the radio family, and second of all, as I said, you're not allowed to do that, intern Mike, only I'm allowed to do that, so welcome to the radio family, Radio Superstar Pat. Yeah, welcome to the Radian family. He wrote in the group, I still remember when Damo helped me move a couple of years ago, such a nice and helpful guy, and he did hashtag my Damo story and hashtag I care for Damo. Yep, so he's actually started a new hashtag, which wasn't actually part of it, but cool. Radio Danny, and welcome again to the radio family, Radio Danny. Here's 10 mic points. She's actually on my side, which is that Damo's too minor of a character for us to care. And she said, I can't get on board. Sorry, guys. Hashtag Damo is a minor character. And Heath and her got into a big argument, which did not go well. It didn't end very well. Jordan Brower, welcome to the radio family. He says, hashtag I care for Damo. I did an angry react, and he said, how dare you disrespect me like that? And have 10 mic points for your courage. Obviously, the only reason I'm angry reacting is because I do know that Damo is a minor character on the podcast. He's never even spoken on the podcast, for God's sake, but we all care about him and we don't want him to die. So hashtag I stand for Damo. Keep it coming, guys. Let's keep Damo in our minds, front of minds at all times. And I'm realizing now, Ed and Mike, we didn't actually give an update on how Damo is. Have you heard from the hospital? Yeah, look, Mike, Damo, I can say that the doctors believe that Damo may be recovering because of a rare condition called hashtagitis, which is that when someone starts hashtagging and a hashtag starts trending about you, suddenly the thoughts and prayers that you've put into that hashtag actually serve as a placebo to help him. And he's obviously not shitting. He can't shit at the moment because he's too afraid of what shit's done to him. He needs to do some therapy and come to terms with shit. But he's actually going a lot better. So I think Radio Heath would be really happy to hear that. That's really, really good news. Really, really good news. Intern Mike, are you planning on doing much for your summer holidays at the moment? I'm just like, Mum's taking me down to Aubrey, just to go to the like one of the lakes there, and we're going with some of Mum's friends and their kids. So there's like Jason, who's obviously a minor character. He's don't hashtag him, but there's Jason who he's cool. He's 11. So when I hang out with him, I feel like I'm the boss, which I never feel any other time. But I'm just looking forward to not having to do any homework and just being free and being on holidays. That's awesome, man. That'll be really fun. You've been talking to me a bit about wanting to do a little bonus podcast for the guys during summer, because I'll be taking a few weeks off. You wanted to do Intern Mike's summer break podcast. Yeah, I just thought if people wanted, I just wanted to do I'll just come on for 20 minutes once a week and just say what I've been doing on the summer holidays and stuff like that. I don't know, I just thought it'd be fun. If everyone hates it, don't worry, I don't know. I don't actually care that much, but it's just to learn more about me and develop my character and stuff. I just think that'd be fun. Yeah, well, if people want it, I think we can definitely do that. Hey, let's do one of these.
Keelan's Weekly Shrek Facts.
This is a segment run by Radio Keelan. Welcome to the Radio family. Radio Keelan, take 20 mic points. Oh, actually, no, cancel those mic points. You don't get mic points for this. But every week, Keelan, for the past 2 weeks, Keelan has come on the show and given us a Shrek fact of his choosing, and last week's wasn't great. It was a Shrek fact about Shrek's children's names, which was an easily Googleable fact, so I didn't particularly like that, and I gave him a warning that he might be swapped to fortnightly if this week's episode wasn't good. So let's get Keelan on the phone now and just make sure he's good to go.
Hello?
Hey, we're in the middle of this!
Keelan's Weekly Shrek Facts.
Hey Keelan, welcome to another week of Keelan's Weekly Shrek Facts. Here's your host, Keelan Brown. That's you, Keelan. Go.
Hey guys, I'm happy to be on the show today. I'm very excited. I've got a great Keelan plan for you.
Sorry, what?
I have a great Keelan Shrek fact plan.
Okay, so this is now Lewis Spears who has taken control of Keelan's phone, but this
hang on. Why do you sound so much less excited to talk to me? You were yelling for Keelan and now you just sound disappointed and angry because it's me. What's wrong with me?
Well,
I've got Shrek facts.
The segment is Keelan Shrek Facts, not Lewis's Shrek Facts, and
Keelan gave the phone to me.
You've now hijacked the entire segment.
Would you want to talk to Keelan then?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll put him on.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, this is Keelan from Keelan Shrek Facts. How may I Shrek Fact you today?
This is Luke Kidgel, who's now
that?
taken the phone as well. Could I just be
I
on...
know what you're talking about.
Keelan, could you please take the phone and put it on speaker for a moment?
Okay, hang on. I'll put it on speaker.
Okay. Hello. All right, guys. So Keelan does a weekly Shrek fact on the podcast, and
You want the fact?
yeah, go.
Yeah, so the first word that Shrek says, not as a narrator in the first Shrek movie, is that. And the last word he says in Shrek 2 is that.
So Shrek, the first word he says not as the narrator is that.
Yeah.
What's the first
And
word
then
he says as narrator? Is it once upon a time?
Yeah, it's one. It's one. And then in the end of the second movie, the last word is that. Yeah. Okay.
But what about the end of the fourth movie?
I don't know that much.
Well, so
I thought you only wanted one back.
wait.
Yeah.
Also, Keelan, what's the
Yeah.
last? What's the last line of the second movie? What is it?
That.
Yeah, but what's the last? What's the line?
Remember that.
What is it? When? In what context does he say that?
I think he's
Talking to Donkey.
he's talking to Fiona, and he goes,
He says, remember that.
Talking to Fiona. It's at the wedding at the end of the movie.
I don't remember how that movie ends actually. But
Well,
anyway,
that's how it ends.
well, that's cool. Can I tell you my fact, which isn't Shrek related? But
Can I give you a second fact first?
yeah, sure, man.
It takes 3 minutes and 55 seconds for Shrek to start speaking in the first Shrek movie, not as a narrator.
Thanks for that, Keelan. I'll say my fact now. Did you
Yep.
know that in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the film, right?
Yep.
In one scene, Buckbeak, the hippogriff, does a poo, and that was the first time in the world any CGI animated character did a poo on screen.
That's crazy.
How crazy is that? Go
Yeah,
watch,
that's so weird.
and if you go watch the movie, look out for that
Yeah.
scene because that's actually a milestone in cinema history.
The first ever CGI poo.
Yeah, how crazy is that?
Oh, well, that's incredibly specific. You could get down to, that's the first character ever called Buckbeak in a Harry Potter film.
All right,
That's
guys,
the milestone.
that's another edition of Keelan's weekly Shrek Facts. See you, Keelan.
See you later. I can't wait to come back on next week.
Bye, Keelan.
And also, just because I'm Keelan, coming from Keelan wants none of this edited out. So if you could keep in the whole segment, that'd be great. Raw, that's
Bye,
the
guys.
essence of Keelan Shrek.
That's
Like
the
I
end.
always say, keep on Shrekking.
Okay, well, that got hijacked a bit, but that was very fun. I think we will let Keelan come back next week. I think, there's something on this podcast that we fucking need to be powering through, and I'll tell you why. Because we've got like 5 weeks left of the show, and there is no way we are going to finish this in time. So let's do one of these.
Harry Potter and the Boys. A live reading by Radio Mike. You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm a what?
It is Harry Potter and the Boys, my Harry Potter fan fiction that I wrote in year 7. And to be honest with you guys, I want to get a fucking chapter of this bad boy out. Because when we started the podcast, we were doing a chapter a week. But it was just like, then the podcast just, as I said at the start, the podcast just took this turn that was like, stuff was happening that I never thought was going to happen. So yeah, but I want to get a chapter out now before we do Radio Nacho Cheese's weekly update. And it's chapter 19, The Shaft of Light. And I do believe we are nearing the end, but I have doubts we're going to finish the end of the book before the end of the year. However, once the book is finished on this podcast, I am going to create a separate podcast feed just for Harry Potter and the Boys. And like, just so you can listen to each chapter as an audiobook kind of thing. And I'll talk more about that in the future. But let's go with chapter 19, The Shaft of Light, which I believe I remarked last week that kind of sounds like a shaft always reminds me of a penis. But anyway, all right, here it is. So Derek is singing at the start of this chapter. Stinky Winky, Pipsy, Wah Wah Poo, Derek sung, which sounds like the Teletubbies theme song, but he's changed the names. He had just fell in love with a new TV show called The Smelly Blubbies. Yep, so that's it. He walked down a hall singing a song. So how vague I am as an author in this book. Like, he walked down a hall. I feel like J.K. Rowling has the whole of Hogwarts mapped out, like to the point of having every secret passageway. And then, like, I'm just like, yeah, he walked down one of the halls at Hogwarts. It doesn't matter which one. He met up with Michael and Rob, who were on their way to Hermione's office because they had received the 9th ill-fated measure. And in a previous chapter, Hermione did say to come and see her when they get that, I believe. They still weren't talking, but they were both thinking the same thing. Legame rotto. What did it mean? And that was the text, the Latin text that was printed on the 9th ill-fated measure, which I believe translated to something like the join team or something. I can't remember. Excuse me, Derek, said Rob. Could you please tell Michael to stop walking so close to me? Excuse me, Derek, said Michael. Could you tell Rob that this corridor is very small and I can't help walking so close to him? Excuse me, Derek, Rob said, slightly raising his voice. Can you tell Michael that he's fucking stinky? That's... Excuse me, Derek, said Michael, clearly yelling. Tell Rob that the smell that he is smelling is not me, it is himself. Excuse me, Derek, screamed Rob. Tell Michael that if he doesn't stop being an idiot, I will speak to the headmaster. Derek couldn't take it anymore. He was shaking, and suddenly his head blew up and he turned into a robot. Well, everything about that was true, except for the bit where his head blew up and he turned into a robot. That's what the narrator says. The boys walked into Hermione's office. Excuse me, Hermione. What does legame rotto mean? Said Rob. I don't know, Hermione said. Sorry, Hermione. Excuse his stupidity, said Michael, but we've received the 9th ill-fated measure. I see, said Hermione. I think it is now appropriate for me to show you this. The boys stepped into the Pensieve. They appeared in the corridor that Boris Mailman had walked in to get to the room with the star thingamajig, which I believe is that there was like this big star shaft thing, which is maybe the shaft of light, that turned Harold, another character, into a were-basilisk. 2 boys appeared, but it wasn't Mr. Charger or Boris Mailman. It was themselves. It was definitely Michael and Rob walking together. That's impossible, said Rob. It was true. It was impossible. Michael and Rob had never walked into this corridor before. Now the boys were walking to the exact same spot that Boris walked to in the previous memory. They whispered, "Troll," just like Boris did, and walked in. They quickly put on an invisibility cloak. The real boys didn't need to use an invisibility cloak. It was just a memory. Right, okay. So it's saying that the boys didn't have to... fuck it, I can't be bothered to explain. You get it. They saw a much younger version of Mr. Charger and Boris Mailman. They were probably first years at this point as well. I finished it, Boris. I am kind of confused. So they're there in memories, but in the memory is them there as well. Like as them now, but in that memory. And they're there in the memory, but not part of the memory. They're there like viewing the memory. And then Mr. Charger and Boris Mailman are there in the memory, but they're like, they are first years. So weird. I finished it, Boris. The shaft of light. Now we will start, said a young Mr. Charger. I will enjoy this, said Mailman. It's good that we are some of the strongest wizards in the world, and we can already use the killing curse. Yes, and I think we should start by... Avada Kedavra! Mr. Charger yelled, pointing his wand at the invisibility cloak the boys were under. Rob fell to the ground. He was death. It wouldn't be funny if it shouldn't be funny, but it says he was death, not he was dead. Now I think I know what's going on, because if I recall correctly from the first episode of this podcast, or the first chapter of this book, which was read in the second episode of this podcast, Rob was an orphan, and now I think that Mr. Charger has just killed Rob's father, and that's why they look so similar. One mudblood is dead, said Mailman. Avada Kedavra, he yelled, pointing his wand straight at the memory of Michael, who was crying as he stared at his dead friend, or what he used to think was his friend. So, and also Michael was an orphan as well, I think. They were both orphans. So this is, so these must be their parents. I'm sure these are their parents. But actually that makes no sense, because if the parents were dead when they were first year students, then it's highly unlikely that A, they would have had sex, and B, would have impregnated a woman. So maybe it's not. Who knows? I'm really confused. I hope you're not. He was dead too. 2, but 1 was a half-blood. But it still counts, Mailman said. How many people do we have to kill? 20, said Mr. Charger. And 1 has to be the second most powerful wizard in the world. What is this fucking... I don't get this book. Like, what is this conspiracy fucking prophecy about? I don't know. Who? All right. Who? Asked Mailman. Ron Weasley. So apparently in this book, Ron Weasley is one of the most powerful wizards in the world. But at least I have my mental eye that can see through invisibility cloaks, Mr. Charger replied. Well, I guess it's just bad luck for Carmichael and Robson. That's the surnames of Michael and Rob, said Mailman. Come on, let's go. We might get caught, said Mr. Charger. Desblost, that's a spell. It's in italics, and in this book, if I write it in italics, it's a spell. Desblost, Mailman said, pointing his wand at the bodies of Michael and Rob, and they disappeared. Michael and Rob exited the Pensieve. Hermione looked at them. Was that us? Asked Rob, crying. No, said Hermione. They were your fathers. I still don't... It doesn't make sense. This makes absolutely no sense. No, that's impossible, said Michael. That's literally what I did say, but I also said it in the book. They looked remarkably like you, said Hermione. How are we alive then? Asked Rob. Cool. Thanks to Rob and Michael in this book for asking all the questions that need to be asked. I don't think I can tell you that right now, said Hermione. But tell me what you've learned. It makes no sense that they're alive unless they're like clones or something like that. Who knows? Well, that big star thing is called the Shaft of Light, said Rob. And that our dads had an invisibility cloak, said Michael. And that Mr. Charger was a murderer, said Rob. And he's gonna kill Ron Weasley, said Michael. What? Said Hermione. Look, said Michael. I kept all of the ill-fated measure notes. He pulled out the notes from his pocket. Look at these letters. RONWEASLE. If I'm not mistaken, the last letter on the last ill-fated measure will be a Y, he said. Of course, said Rob. Very clever. Very clever, said Hermione. I hadn't even figured that out. Thanks, said Michael. Now, there is one more, but this one is, well, no, I'll show you this one later. It's unimportant at the moment, said Hermione. But Hermione, please tell us, how are we alive? It's impossible, said Rob. I have a theory, but I just can't tell you now. So basically in this book, Hermione has taken the role of Dumbledore as the person who knows everything but refuses to tell the main character to prepare them for what they need to do. Classic hero character, like mentor character in a book or film. Fucking hell. So I think now some time has passed. So you weren't even alive when your parents died? Asked Luke once Rob and Michael finished explaining. Yeah, said Rob. But Hermione won't tell us why, said Michael. Michael, 5 o'clock! Tom had just run into the room. The concert, said Michael. He was so angry because he thought that he was going to get an apology from Rob, and that Tom and Michael are in Hagrid's band, so that's what the concert is. Once they were in the Great Hall, Hagrid was at the front with his microphone. Hurry up, he yelled. The audience is getting cranky. Then it says, Michael and Tom looked around. There were 3 people in the room. but then it says, so it's like Michael and Tom looked around. There were 3 people in the room. Mr. Charger, Derek, and someone they thought was dead. Dragon Mailboy. That's fucked. And the next chapter, chapter 20, the return of Dragon Mailboy. Dragon Mailboy died in chapter 3 when he had to swim across the Hagrid made them swim across the lake, and he died of frostbite. But Boris Mailman is Dragon Mailboy's father. I think we learned that in a previous chapter. And now Dragon Mailboy's back. That's fucked. All right, that was awesome. Let's do this.
Yeah, g'day everyone, it's Radio Nacho Cheese here. G'day Radio Mike, it's Radio Nacho Cheese here again. Radio Nacho Cheese here again. Radio Nacho Cheese here.
He's Radio Nacho Cheese, and this is his weekly update. Just thought I'd do that one live for you guys. Radio Nacho Cheese, he's the best friend of the show. Lovely, lovely chap. We all love him. Hands up. Put your hand up right now if you love Radio Nacho Cheese. My hand's up. I'm not embarrassed. I love him. He's a great guy. He sends a message to the show every week via 1-800-GET-FUCKED. There's multiple channels you can contribute to this show via my Instagram, radio.mike, Twitter, it's Radio Mike, radiomikepod@gmail.com, or 1-800-GET-FUCKED on your mobile telephone or your landline, if you've got one. I certainly don't. That'd be a waste of money. But Radio Nacho Cheese, I put it to him last week that I want to have him live on the show as opposed to a pre-recorded message. He sent me this message this week. I'll play it for you now.
Yeah, g'day there, Radio Mike and the Radio family. Nacho Cheese here. I know I didn't get requested to do this, but I saw a little riddle online during the week, so I've decided to throw it out there. You can edit this out if you're not keen on it, Mike, but basically, someone's bought a bat and a ball for $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much did each item cost? There's a riddle. I also want to say this week, let's keep both Siggy Mike and Damo in our prayers as they're both going through their individual tough times. So yeah, let's keep praying for them. And lastly, just want to say, love you all. Have a great week. And hopefully everyone's able to wrap up the year in a positive way. Thanks, guys. Love you. And love you, Radio Mike. Bye-bye.
Really interesting riddle, but to be honest, Nacho Cheese didn't ask for it, as you said, and you did say that. That's fine. Didn't ask for it. Not going to devote any time to it on the podcast this week. However, if you as a listener would like to participate in that in your own time, you're more than welcome to do so. Please feel free to participate in that riddle. I will not be today. Nothing against the riddle. Happy with riddles, Nacho Cheese, but just, I just want to get to the point of what I want to say at the moment. I then realized that most weeks, Nacho Cheese does this thing where he times off. He says the date and time that he's ringing up. He didn't do that this time, as you heard. But I was pleased to see an email pop up not long after the voice message came through from Radio Nacho Cheese, and it said, "Hey, Radio Mike, this morning, I believe that I may have forgotten to sound off before I went on to my message." That's like timing off. For reference, the time was 6:56 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. I'm also happy to do a phone call for the show at some stage, whenever it suits you. Regards, Cheddar. He signed off as Cheddar this time, which I guess is Nacho Cheese. Cheddar Cheese. Sometimes we call him Nach. Sometimes we call him Mr. Cheese. Sometimes we call him Cheddar. You could even call him Ched. Next week, Radio Nacho Cheese will be live on the 20th Century Boy podcast. How do you feel about that, Emma, Mike? Oh, look, he's been one of the best listeners of the show all year, so it absolutely means a lot to us that he's willing to give us the time of day for this little podcast. I think it's going to be great to have him on, and can't wait to give him a call. Intern Mike, you've been talking about Radio Nacho Cheese all week. You seem to like him a lot. I just think he's doing really good things for the podcast. He's contributing. He lets people know all the channels of communication. He times off so we know what time he's on. I just think it's a great segment for the show, and he's got such a heavenly voice, and we just love hearing from him every week. He's the man of the show. Thanks, Radio Nacho Cheese. We're so excited to talk to you next week. We might even get you to record a special message for Ed and the Mike for his wedding. Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to have... Actually, I might actually invite him to my wedding, but we'll see. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, Nacho Cheese, really, really looking forward to it. And that is about all we've got time for this week. I've been, just so we're across it, I have been thinking about, like, the shape of the podcast next year, because I'm still unsure what I'm doing next year in terms of my job. I've just been sort of looking into a few more career options, which ideally I'd be able to talk about, but I can't at the moment, but that's cool. But I think moving forward, especially if I'm working full time, I think the podcast would have to be a less structured kind of podcast the way today's was, because I'm not sure if that sucks for you guys or not. So actually, I'd love feedback, but like, it's just become very difficult for me to do a very production heavy show. It was a lot easier earlier in the year because I wasn't necessarily working every day, but now that I am, it's just very hard to prepare all that and produce it and still have free time where I can see my friends and family and stuff and do all that. I hope this doesn't come across as me like complaining about it, because I still love doing the podcast and I still get excited to do it. But I just like, when it comes to like making big sketches and packages, which I really love doing, but I don't know if I have the resources to do that stuff as often. I just like, it'd be great to have someone on who could edit the podcast and take away a lot of that time for me and edit audio and stuff. But it's just like, that's not really a viable option at the moment. And I'm not trying to like change the podcast or anything like that. I hope that these kind of more, less structured and less formatted episodes are still okay. Because like, I look at people like Luke Kidgel and Lewis Spears, who they both do their own solo podcasts, Memoirs of a White Guy and Spearhead Sundays, which are both really, really good podcasts. And they're obviously very unstructured, just in the sense that they're not necessarily production heavy. And that doesn't mean like the segment sweeps and stuff will go. It's just more of a thing of those really big, really produced segment, like not segments, just sometimes on the show we do really produce stuff, and sometimes I have a lot of grabs, and all of that just takes time and resources, which is that's the podcast I always wanted to make, and I think I've done that, and now I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do next. Anyway, I just thought I'd be transparent about it in case people are like, oh, fuck this shit. But to be honest, the listenership of the podcast has been really steady, so I don't necessarily think any of you are hating it, which is cool. So thanks for being here. Sorry about that little spiel. I just thought, yeah, since you guys are the listeners, I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. Thank you so much for listening. All the messages, like you guys are the reason that keeps me doing this every week, and I love doing it. And like people like Radio Your Beanie Boy and anyone who messages me during the week about anything I do, whether it's the podcast or Release the Sounds or like even like Willosophy, working on that, and Hamish and Andy, or whatever it is that I work on, it means a lot to me. And I know I can often be like little tongue-in-cheek and sarcastic on this show, but it does really mean a lot. So thank you so much for listening. All the socials are there in the description. My name is Radio Mike. Go to releasethesounds.com. Go to radiomike.com.au. Buy something to keep the lights running. Helps me buy dinner, and it helps me buy rent. Helps me pay rent in my new place that I'm living in now. So yeah, thank you so much. My name's been Radio Mike. And look, I'm going to let you in a little secret. This has been The Inside. See you later. Bye.